Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. Guys, today we're taking a look at the Carolina Hurricanes as we have to take a look at the contract negotiations between Andrei Svechnikov and the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll be taking a look at that in today's video. So, Andrei Svechnikov, a 2018 second overall pick of the Carolina Hurricanes. He's 21 years old. And it sounds like there are a couple of different avenues that the Hurricanes and Andrei Svechnikov's camp want to go in another contract. So in his first 3 seasons with the Hurricanes, he's been really solid. He's been one of the best goal scorers in this new era of the league, putting up 37 points in his first 82-game scheduled season. Last season, he was almost a point per game, 61 points in 68 games. And then this season, he put up 42 points in 55 games. He's got 140 points in over 200 NHL games in his career so far. This is a really solid player for the Hurricanes and a guy that they really rely on. He kind of fell into their lap when the Hurricanes moved up in the draft lottery, and this is just a huge piece of their team. Now, they have $12.3 million in cap space. You look at some of the guys on the roster that are getting paid. You got Sebastian Aho making $8.46. You would have to assume that they maybe want to keep it below Sebastian Aho's deal, but they may not have a choice. You have $6 million to Jordan Staal, $5.4 million to Teuvo Teravainen, 1 more year for Niederreiter at $5.25. On the back end, you have Jacob Slavin at $5.3, and then you have Brady Shea at $5.25. So there's some pretty big contracts on the Hurricanes. With the numbers we're hearing about Andrei Svechnikov, depending on how long-term they want to go with this deal, he may get a bigger number than Sebastian Aho. So we'll look at that now. So for a short-term deal, the comparable seems to be Patrik Laine. That deal he signed back with the Winnipeg Jets. He signed a 2-year, $6.75 million contract. So if they want to go short-term, it'll take him till he's 23, and they have to go through this process again. And maybe, Svechnikov wants to see where his value is at that point. Maybe that's the direction they go. And this also may make sense for the Hurricanes' perspective because it allows them to save some salary cap space for the now when they're trying to win a Stanley Cup. And they just put a lot of upgrades into their goaltending. So this is a team that does need to worry about cap space. That does become a concern. And they still have his control in 2 years, so it's not that big of a deal. Now, let's say they go the long-term deal. What's comparable to a long-term deal? Well, you're probably looking at a guy like Colorado Avalanche's Mikko Rantanen, who is making $9.25 million per season for 6 years. Now, a 6-year deal would take Andrei Svechnikov right into free agency, right till he's 27 years old. So there is some concern about that, and that's probably why the price tag is so much higher. There is such a big difference is because you're buying unrestricted free agency years. That's why those contracts between 26, 27, like we just saw with Darnell Nurse, the price tag goes a lot higher because they have that unrestricted free agency tag. Now, legitimately, where could we see the number actually go for Andrei Svechnikov? So you got to think if they're going for the shorter term deal, they could do that. Rantanen, you go for the longer deal at 6, 7, 8 years. Again, you're going to be paying unrestricted free agency years, which could put you closer to north of $9 million per year. So there is that thought process there if you're Andrei Svechnikov. Now, here's the other thing. If they go an 8-year deal, right? If they go 8 years, do they go for $8.5 million? Now, maybe you cut a little bit because you're not walking him straight into free agency, and you're maybe betting on the fact that he's going to be good long term. So Svechnikov gets his money, he's going to be there, and he's got that higher dollar amount in a longer span of time. So you could argue that he should make more because the salary is going to grow in 8 years. He's going to be buying unrestricted free agency years. That could end up being a really good contract for the Hurricanes. And that would take him till he's 29 years old. And, Svechnikov could continue to get big money after that if he ends up becoming a really good hockey player, which we assume he will. So there is some questions about that deal as well. But I have to think, if I'm Don Waddell, I've got $12 million in cap space. My big guy right now is Andrei Svechnikov. It's one of those things where what they've done this offseason with Tom Dundon and the Hurricanes is, if you don't agree to our price, get out. That's kind of what they did to Warren Foegele. That's kind of what they did to Brock McGinn, Jordan Martinook, Dougie Hamilton, Peter Mrazek. The list goes on. They've done that. Alex Nedeljkovic. They've done that with a lot of guys this offseason. Now, are they doing that to save money here for Andrei Svechnikov, or is that going to be the same kind of pitch that they're going to say to Svechnikov? Hey, sorry, we're not giving you the money that you want. This is the highest dollar amount we'll go, and that's it. And if that's the case, you do run the concern of maybe something similar to what we're seeing right now with the Minnesota Wild and Kevin Fiala. And that is something that should be accounted for, because you do not want to do that with Andrei Svechnikov. I talked about how, quite honestly, the Wild shouldn't be doing that with their guy. It doesn't look, they're not going to arbitration, which is good news for the Hurricanes and for Svechnikov. So I think they assume they're pretty close to getting something done. And the Hurricanes are one of those teams where they are very interesting with their salary cap, where they're very, I don't want to say cheap or frugal, but those are the best words I could come up with. Now, 21 years old. Can you find a way to get a 6-year deal? He'll be 27 years old. It'll walk him straight into free agency, and you give him $7.5 million per year, a $45 million contract. That sounds like a pretty good contract for both sides. It's a little bit of a longer bridge deal, but you're not buying all those years of free agency, which may be good for the Hurricanes, and it may be good for Svechnikov. It may be good for both sides, and that way in 6 years from now, they could decide, listen, is this a good fit or not? I'm going to assume it's going to be a good fit because of just how talented Svechnikov is and how many times he can put the puck in the net. And there aren't a ton of those guys around. So many teams are looking for guys that could score goals. And you have a really good one here, and Andrei Svechnikov. So we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What would you like to see a contract here for Andrei Svechnikov to return to the Carolina Hurricanes? Do you want to see a 2-year deal? Do you want to see an 8-year deal? Do you want to see something more toward the middle, maybe a 5 or 6-year deal? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.